The richest man in wrong city, Dylan, was coming to our college to select two female students for his scholarship program. A grand display of his supposed generosity. I happened to overhear a conversation between Dylan and his friend. It turned out his so-called scholarship was a sham. The real intention was to handpick two attractive girls under the guise of philanthropy, and present them to the perverse underworld figure. Kai. Thinking of my best friend and myself both conspicuously beautiful, I began formulating a plan. So, on the night Dylan came to our school, I deliberately dragged my best friend along to help at the bubble tea shop where I worked part-time, keeping us occupied until late. In the end, Dylan, dissatisfied as usual, selected two girls of merely decent looks as the scholarship recipients. After that, my best friend and I graduated smoothly and were admitted to the jobs we desired. My best friend even met a man at her workplace who truly adored her. They eventually married and lived a life so enviably happy it seemed almost unreal. It wasn't until a college reunion that my best friend ran into Ava, one of the girls Dylan had chosen. From Ava, she learned the truth and she blamed me for ruining her chance at a life among the elite. Her resentment toward me burned white hot. She berated and assaulted me at every opportunity. Later, news that Dylan, the richest man in wrong city, had married one of his scholarship protégées dominated the headlines. Shaken, my best friend seized a moment when I was unguarded, stabbed me twice from behind, and pushed me off a high rise. I shattered into pieces. Every bone broken. Not a single part of me intact. And then, I woke up, trembling. Every nerve aflame, drenched in sweat. My heart hammering with the terror and pain of that fall. I looked at my limbs whole, unharmed, and grabbed the phone on my bedside table. August 12, 2018. 700 a.m. I had been reborn. Back to the very day Dylan came to our school to select his scholarship recipients. I remembered it clearly. In my previous life, this was the day he came. Because of my family's financial struggles. Apart from attending classes, I spent all my time working various part-time jobs. Just yesterday, a senior I got along with had introduced me to a temporary job at Wrong City's largest bar as a waitress for a night. Normally, having fulfilled my session, I avoided places like that crowded, unpredictable, potentially dangerous. For someone like me, having fulfilled my session, from an ordinary family, one wrong step could have been catastrophic. But perhaps sensing my hesitation, my senior assured me the bar was run by her uncle and guaranteed my safety. Her care, combined with that assurance, eased my worries considerably. So that night, I went to the bar. And that's where I accidentally overheard Dylan talking with his friend. Dylan said he was coming to our school because he liked the concentration of beautiful girls in the journalism department. That Kaya Mafia kingpin was obsessed with young female journalism students who were both curvy and pure-faced. Dylan even mentioned that, in Kai's twisted fantasies, such girls sounded more pleasant in bed. I had no idea why Guy harbored such perverse tastes. But one thing was certain, my best friend and I, being the school and department belles, were almost guaranteed to catch his eye if we were present. The next morning, I dragged my best friend out of bed to accompany me at the bubble tea shop. I recalled how, in my previous life, after returning from a classmate reunion, she had slapped me twice. She accused me of dragging her to the shop, ruining her chance at a wealthy life. She claimed I was jealous, afraid of being outshone, determined to hold her back. I apologized and even recounted Dylan's conversation verbatim. She refused to listen. In her mind, her beauty alone should have guaranteed Dylan's attention after all. Even Ava, whose looks were less remarkable, had become Dylan's fiancée. Why shouldn't she have had that chance? I explained that Dylan, a rich heir, had seen more beautiful women than one could count. For men like him, appearances meant little if not coupled with status or advantage. And Ava, though not as striking as my friend, was undeniably a rare beauty. More importantly, Ava, though a child of a wealthy family's extramarital line, had been raised by a Giandan aristocratic family from childhood and educated with refinement. Even if her early life lacked luxury, it was still far superior to the daily struggle for tuition and living expenses that my friend and I endured. Ava excelled academically, was skilled in music, painting, and literature, and carried herself with intelligence, grace, and discretion. It was no surprise that Dylan had kept her close. Yet Luna, my best friend, refused to listen. She demanded to know whose friend I was, hers or Ava's? Why did I always seem to favor Ava? I didn't want to argue. It felt painful to do so. I reasoned perhaps my interference had been unnecessary. People have different values. And maybe Luna genuinely desired that life. I endured her berating, thinking she would eventually see reason. A life as a wealthy wife was not meant for someone like us. She only focused on the fact that Ava had married Dylan and become an elite wife, deliberately ignoring Ava's true background. In reality, Ava was the illegitimate daughter of a tycoon from the neighboring province. In my previous life, Dylan and Ava were together less than a month before her father reclaimed her. Their union was never a Cinderella and Prince story, it was a strategic alliance. Two powerful families merging. A perfect match of equals. All of this had already been reported in the news. And I had even told Luna myself. Yet she chose to selectively ignore it, and then slapped me, accusing me of jealousy, saying I couldn't stand to see her do well. Suddenly, I didn't want to speak to her anymore. Didn't she realize that for the wealthy, there's never just one beautiful woman in their orbit? Dylan had only chosen her as a plaything for Kai, of course. He picked someone beautiful yet without any background. That way, even if she was ruined in the end, it wouldn't matter. As for the other girl Dylan had supported, eventually, having fulfilled my accept, she was handed over to Kai, a true plaything. After Kai grew bored, he passed her to his subordinate. And in the end, she was beaten to death. I only learned all this later, after I became a civil servant and joined the police. In my previous life, seeing Luna's husband treat her so well and their seemingly happy life, I didn't want to burden her with these grim truths. Who could have imagined she would spiral further into madness? Obsessively reading every news piece about Dylan and Ava, growing increasingly resentful. On the very day Dylan married that Ava, she lured me to her house, and while I wasn't paying attention, stabbed me twice and pushed me off a building. Now, looking at the time on my phone and then at Luna sleeping soundly on the bed opposite me, a cold smile curved my lips. Reborn. I would no longer debase myself by meddling in someone else's life. The moment I fell from that high rise, I swore that if heaven gave me a second chance, I would never stop Luna from plummeting into the abyss. I quickly got up, washed, and quietly left the dorm while everyone else was still asleep. I knew the bubble tea shop would be busy today, so I changed into my work uniform and prepared everything I would need. As expected, customers began to arrive one after another, and I was busy from the moment I stepped in. The entire day, I focused solely on work. At lunch, I noticed a few messages on my phone seemingly from Luna, but I chose to ignore them. It wasn't until I returned to the dorm that evening that I opened the messages. Nora, I won't be back at the dorm tonight. Remember to ask the teacher to excuse me from the posture class tomorrow morning. Oh, and if the teacher asks, just tell him I'm sick. I know the posture teacher likes you best. If you personally go to ask for my leave, he'll be delighted. Reading these messages, I could only feel sorry for my past self. Luna surely knew that the posture teacher had harassed me under the guise of teaching several times. Yet she still expected me to personally ask for her leave. People like her weren't worth the trouble of loyalty or effort. I turned off my phone and pretended I hadn't seen them. Sure enough, in the following days, Luna didn't return to class. As for me, from the day I was reborn, I resolved not to care about her anymore. The other two roommates already disliked Luna, so her presence or absence was of no concern to them. Luna always relied on her beauty, flirting with various boys, especially those who already had girlfriends. It seemed that only by doing so could she assert her charm and appeal. She had even stolen several girls' boyfriends in our class before, one of them being one of our roommates. That's why the other two didn't care at all when Luna vanished. 3 days later, Luna returned. It happened to be a Saturday, and most students had left campus for the weekend, leaving the playground almost empty. I had promised a roommate to celebrate her birthday, so I didn't go to my part-time job. The three of us got ready, changed our clothes, and planned to go to the city center, have hot pot, and finish the night at karaoke, everything arranged in advance by my roommate. But as soon as we reached the school gate, we saw Luna stepping out of a black Bentley. Her previously cheap clothes had been replaced by an international brand, and she carried a Hermes bag. Seeing us, she smiled and walked over, her Cartier bracelet flashing casually. "Nora, where are you going?" I didn't answer, simply watching her. I knew that even if I stayed silent, she would continue talking. After all, after indulging in the high society thrill, she needed someone to vent to. Sure enough, without waiting for a reply, Luna went on. "Nora, are you upset? Because I was chosen as Dylan's sponsored student, while you, the top student in the journalism department, weren't selected." Feigning regret, she continued, "Don't be sad, Nora. Dylan selects only the most beautiful students for sponsorship. Although you're the department star, you weren't there that night. But I have to say, you shouldn't focus solely on studying and part-time jobs. You should dress well too. That's the only way to attract high-quality men. Look at you, working multiple jobs, barely making a few $100. It's not even enough to buy someone a cup of coffee." The other two roommates had had enough and tried to pull me away. Luna's expression darkened. She had always looked down on them, and now that she had aligned herself with her perceived wealthy protector, she had no restraint at all. "Nora," she said, "as my best friend, I advise you, you can make friends, but don't just hang out with any random person. You'll devalue yourself." I couldn't bear it any longer. "Luna, what value? I'm just a country girl. My parents worked odd jobs to support me through college. I know my limits. As for you, the outside world dazzles, and princess dreams are like bubbles one careless spoke and they burst. So, you better hold on tight." With that, I grabbed my roommates and left, never glancing back at Luna. It was clear Luna had already made her choice. Just now, I had caught a glimpse of her collarbone, mottled with purplish bruises. Although my body was now that of a 22-year-old girl, my soul was 27 or 28. I still knew a thing or two about men and women. Over the past few days, Luna had no doubt indulged in many a passionate encounter. This was the friend I had once loved and protected most. She was no longer the Luna I knew. The current Luna exuded a tawdry, worldly aura that made my stomach churn. Surely, over the past few days, Dylan had already introduced Luna to a world ordinary people like us could never touch, which explained the airs of an upper-class socialite she now carried. But honestly, although Luna was beautiful, the outfit she wore didn't quite suit her. It somehow fell flat. I grabbed my two roommates and turned to leave. As we passed a black Bentley, its window suddenly rolled down, revealing a cold, sinister face. I recognized him. I had seen this man before in the interrogation room during a major drug trafficking case at the police station. Back then, a long scar ran along his left brow down to his nose, making him look slightly different from now. Yet those icy, malevolent eyes remained unchanged, staring without a shred of emotion, like a coiled viper ready to tear you apart at any moment. His gaze casually swept over me, tinged with both nonchalance and insinuation. Terrified, I averted my eyes and hurriedly pulled my roommates away. Even after boarding the bus, the memory of his chilling eyes clung to my mind like a venom I couldn't shake. That man just now was Kai, the underworld figure Del and went to great lengths to please. It seemed Luna had already attached herself to Kai. Her so-called dream of a wealthy life had finally been realized in this manner. But men like Kai, ruthless drug lords who disregarded human life, were ultimately destined to be caught. Would Luna really have the fortune to enjoy the gilded cage he'd built for her? I couldn't help but sneer. The entire morning was spent wandering and snacking in the city center. After lunch, we went to the Kate Evie my roommate had booked. Between part-time jobs or commuting to them, it was rare for me to relax, and I even allowed myself a can of beer. By the time we left the Kate Evie, it was 10:30 at night. A fine drizzle had started, casting an early autumn chill. One roommate, celebrating her birthday, had clearly drunk too much, while the other was still relatively sober. I flanked the drunk roommate on one side, the other roommate on the opposite. supporting her as I prepared to hail a ride on my phone. But the rain and weekend crowd made finding a ride nearly impossible. The app showed 20 people ahead of me. With difficulty, I hailed a passing taxi. At this point, cost didn't matter. A taxi was the only option. The car stopped, and the driver rolled down the window to passengers were already inside. I inwardly groaned, this was a shared ride. Little lady. Where to? I can take you, he said. But I can only fit 2 of you in her. I steadied the drunk roommate as best I could, scanning the area and other taxis seemed to be coming. I quickly decided the other roommate would escort the drunk one home first, while I would take a separate ride later. My taller, stronger roommate could handle it without issue, and she agreed immediately. Take care of yourself, Nora. Call me if anything happens, she said. I smiled and nodded. Don't worry about me. Go ahead. Besides, I used to work late at KFC. This is nothing. She finally nodded and rolled up the window. Relieved, I continued trying to book a ride, but the glaring message 18 people waiting left me feeling discouraged. At that moment, a black Rolls-Royce glided past. The window rolled down, revealing Guy's cold, unsettling face. How was he here? Luna wasn't in the car. Had he just been with her, and now suddenly appeared here? Coincidence or intent? Either way, it made my skin crawl. Nora. At this hour, in the rain, it will be hard for you to get a ride. Get in. I'll take you home. How did he know my name? Then again, Kai was an underworld boss Dylan fawned over him. Discovering my identity would be trivial. And he was Luna's benefactor. I shook my head lightly. Thank you, sir. But I'll manage on my own. I refused him without hesitation. A faintly meaningful smile curled his lips. Nora seems afraid of me? But as far as I know, this is the first time we've met. Not at all, sir. You're mistaken. Just then, let out a low sigh. A blue taxi stopped behind the black Bentley. The driver's honest voice called out, "Little lady. Need a ride?" "Yes," I replied. Then nodded slightly toward the man in the Bentley. "Sir. My car is here." Kai said nothing, merely nodding faintly. I quickly opened the taxi door and climbed in, my heart still hammering wildly. An inexplicable fear filling my chest. In my previous life, I didn't recall any encounter with Kai at this hour. I had only seen him once during his interrogation. After his capture. Back then, he lacked the current swagger. Yet those cold, merciless eyes remained unforgettable. Even in this new life. Back at the dorm, Luna, unusually, was still awake, dressed in revealing silk pajamas and talking on the phone. "President Kai, I want to sleep in my dorm tonight. I'll come tomorrow. I promise." "Really? Don't worry, President Kai. I'll handle my withdrawal procedures tomorrow. Trust me." Something said by the other end made Luna's face suddenly pale. "Of course. I would never betray you. I'm yours. And I will always be loyal. President Kai. Don't be angry. When I return, I'll satisfy you any position you want. And even more exciting things. It's all yours when I get back." I felt my stomach churn at her brazen words and silently slipped to the bathroom to wash up. The other 2 roommates, drunk, let out a low sigh, had long since passed out. "You heard everything?" Luna suddenly appeared at the bathroom door, arms crossed, watching me brush my teeth as she asked, "What?" "Nora. Don't play dumb, you clearly heard my conversation with President Kai." I lifted my eyes to look at Luna. "I heard it. So what?" She snorted coldly. "I know you're jealous that I ended up with President Kai, someone so influential, but you didn't have to side with them to isolate me. Besides, everything I'm enjoying now is what I deserve. It's not like you didn't choose to act all high and mighty. If you apologize now, and promise never to associate with those 2 again, I'll talk to President Dylan and get him to find you a wealthy man too. Not to mention, just a casual gift from him would cover your living expenses for years. Not even counting your tuition." I countered sharply. "And what about you? He buys you luxury goods. Designer bags. Does he pay your tuition too?" Luna's expression flickered. A little off balance. And then I heard her scoff. Tuition. Sch Muatayan. I never wanted to stay in this crummy university anyway. 4 years of hard work. And what do you get? A lousy part-time job. Eating off others' moods. Making less in a month than someone spends on breakfast. What's the point? I stared at her, feeling a strange unfamiliarity. This was probably the real Luna. Her innate sense of superiority had destined her to reject an ordinary life. In my past life, she had graduated, passed the civil service exams, and married an average man, simply because no suitable opportunity had presented itself. So, does your life feel meaningful now? I asked. Her face changed. What's wrong with it? Every day I wake up to being served, eat whatever I want, go wherever I want, never worrying about cost or availability. Nora, I'm telling you this because you're my best friend. I don't want to see you suffer. From knowing Luna across 2 lifetimes, I knew she wouldn't say these things without a motive. So tell me, what's your real purpose in saying all this? Her face grew uneasy as she took my hand and whispered, Nora, what are you saying? You're my dear friend. We grew up together in the same village. Now that I'm living well, as your best friend, I can't just watch you struggle. I want you to drop out with me. Once you do, I promise President Dylan will find you a wealthy man just like President Kai. You've always been the top student. Obedient. My parents often used you as an example. Once you drop out, even if my parents know I quit, they won't blame me anymore. For a few seconds, I wondered if I was hearing things. How could Luna say something like this? Nora, trust me. If President Dylan won't help, I'll get President Kai. He's rich and influential. The people around him are all wealthy. You may not be as pretty as me, but you're still a department star. A little effort and you'll have them eating out of your hand. At that point, anyone could make you a cut above the rest. No need to slave away as a part-timer. I coldly shook off her hand. I had no patience, no sympathy left for the girl in front of me. Luna's values and worldview were completely opposite mine. No wonder we were never destined to be lifelong best friends. Luna, if you want to be on top, to have people wait on you as soon as you open your eyes, I won't stop you. But I will absolutely not drop out with you. Even if in the future I only live a 9-to-5 life as a part-timer, my parents will still be proud of me. Because that's earned with my own hands. I was born in the countryside and know my limits. So I never expected to become someone on top. Luna clearly didn't anticipate that I, who had always indulged her whims, would refuse. Her face darkened. But so what? From the moment I was reborn, I no longer considered her a best friend. If she wanted to self-destruct, that was on her. I had no time to join her madness. Nora, you really don't know what's good for you. I do. I said it firmly, and turned away and climbed into bed. The next morning, I rose early and headed to the library. With senior year approaching, I had to prepare for job exams. Even though in my past life I passed the civil service exam smoothly, I couldn't take anything for granted. Who knew if the questions would be different this time? As for Luna, I had no intention of following her story. After a morning immersed in books, I returned to the dorm in the afternoon to hear from a roommate that Luna had dropped out. She had packed up all her belongings and sold them. A roommate leaned in. Nora, did you hear Luna dropped out? I shook my head. No. How's that possible? Weren't you her best friend? Wrong. Luna never really considered Nora a friend. She often bad-mouthed her behind her back. Another roommate interjected. I smiled. I genuinely didn't know she dropped out. And besides, we weren't really best friends. I don't have a wealthy friend like her. The roommates, seeing there was nothing more to dig out, stopped questioning and turned to gossip about other things. You wouldn't believe it, this morning. She had her luggage picked up by a runner, who then threw it out, while she spent her time in the bathroom getting made up. Then we watched her leave in a black Rolls-Royce. From the look of it, she's probably being kept by some rich benefactor. Otherwise, where would she get the money for those luxury goods? Really, Nora, didn't you notice? I shook my head. No. I only saw her yesterday. The roommates, finding no more information to extract, went on with their own business. I looked out at the blooming plum blossoms. A cold smile crossing my lips. Words are useless on a stubborn fool. Luna had chosen her path, and she alone would pay the price. Pity her parents. If they knew she dropped out, how utterly hopeless they'd feel. Time flew, and soon it was finals. That day, as soon as I finished my last exam, my parents called. Nora, finished your exams? Yeah. Just finished. When are you coming home? Thinking about it. I hadn't seen my parents for 3 or 4 months. I missed them terribly. So I decided to pack my things and head home the next day. Mom, Dad, I'll be home tomorrow. On the other end, my parents were overjoyed. They promised to pick me up at the station and even buy some of my favorite groceries. I smiled and agreed. Before hanging up, they asked, "Is Luna coming with you?" "Arthur's at our place visiting right now." I froze for a moment, unsure how to answer, and muttered vaguely, I don't know. I haven't seen her since the exam. Maybe I'll ask her later." "Hasn't Luna called Arthur or the others?" "I'm not sure. From what Arthur said, Luna hasn't called them in a long time." "Nora, tell your mom that Luna won't get into any trouble. Okay? Mom. Don't worry. Whatever happens, tell Arthur not to worry. Luna's fine." But Luna wasn't fine. Every day she flaunted designer bags and clothes on social media, jetting off to the Maldives one day, France the next. After hanging up, a heaviness settled over me. Although I despised Luna and wanted nothing to do with her, Arthur and Margaret were lifelong good souls. When our family struggled in childhood, often going hungry, Arthur and Margaret would secretly bring us extra food, even telling my parents that my brother and I were growing and needed to eat properly. Perhaps that was part of why Luna and I had become close once. But now, Luna was no longer the same girl she had been. That night, as I packed my bag in the dorm, an unknown number called. "Hello? Who's this?" "Nora. It's me." Hearing that voice, my hand trembled on the phone, almost dropping it. "Kai. What do you want?" "Nora, can't I just call you for no reason?" His laugh sounded casual, but in my ears, it made my body shiver uncontrollably. It inexplicably reminded me of seeing Kai in the interrogation room in my past life. In that life, my mentor happened to be in charge of Kai's case. He told me that Kai, a notorious drug lord, was cunning and slippery, and it took them over 2 years at careful planning to finally catch him. By then, I had been working at the police station for a year. But because Kai's case was so sensitive, all operations were confidential, and my mentor had never mentioned it. It wasn't until Kai was captured that my mentor told me about the case and asked if I wanted to sit in on the interrogation to learn. How could I miss such an opportunity? I went along with my mentor to the interrogation room. That was my first time seeing Kai. He sat in the interrogation chair, hands cuffed. Yet his posture was relaxed, nonchalant, as if he weren't a suspect but a businessman awaiting negotiations at a table. I remember my mentor asked him many questions, but he kept his head down, not responding a single word. After 2 or 3 hours with no progress, my mentor gave up and suspended the interrogation. Outside the room, I asked if I could try. My mentor looked at me in surprise. "Are you sure?" I nodded. "Yes. I want to try." He finally agreed. Inside, Kai still kept his head down, idly playing with the handcuff chain. My mentor gestured for me to start. I took a deep breath and broke the silence. "Kai." At the sound of my voice, he casually looked up, and for a brief moment, a nonchalance in his eyes vanished. He stared directly at me, and for a split second, perhaps it was just my imagination, I saw an emotion in his eyes I couldn't decipher. But it was fleeting, and his casual expression returned. "You've got some clever methods," he said. "But I have to admit, you played it right." I really couldn't look away, and I couldn't lie in front of her. His voice was so soft I barely caught it. At that time, eager to prove my learning to my mentor, I paid it no mind. From that point, the interrogation proceeded surprisingly smoothly. Kai cooperated, answering everything seriously, even adding details I hadn't expected. I remember that as I left, He suddenly asked. Nora, does being a cop make you happy? I didn't understand why he asked but replied honestly. Of course. It's been my dream all along. He smiled day first on that cold, grim face, but it carried a trace of chill beneath it. That's good. I believe you'll be a fine police officer. Until then, all I knew about Kai, a notorious drug lord, came from my mentor and others, powerful, wealthy, built on the drug trade. Thinking of the families shattered by his drugs, I only felt hatred toward him. Yet when he told me he believed I would be a good officer, I put aside the image of the drug lord and returned him a genuine smile. Thank you. I believe I will. And I will remain in this role, bringing down every drug dealer. Later, Kai was sentenced to life imprisonment for the massive scale and severity of his crimes. My mentor said that Kai had a few major cases left unresolved and promised to fully confess if my mentor agreed to one condition. I never learned what the condition was. Eventually, having fulfilled my, Kai was sentenced to death. I even asked my mentor later, but he said it was in the past and not to dwell on it. And I thought, indeed it had nothing to do with me. Why pry? Hey, Nora, you still there? My thoughts snapped back to reality. I knew people like Kai were never good. I should stay far away from him. Besides, he was still entangled with Luna. Ever since I was reborn, I had vowed to keep my distance from Luna and everything connected to her, focusing on living my own life. So Kai's persistent pestering had completely exhausted my patience. Kai, I don't know what you want. But whatever it is, I need to make this clear. I'm just an ordinary person. And I want to live an ordinary life. I took a deep breath. I'm not like Luna, she can sell her body, her soul even, but I, Nora, will never do anything like that. Please, don't bother me again. With that, I hung up. I hadn't realized how much my hands were shaking until after the call. Oh my God. Was I too impulsive? I had just hung up on Kai, the same Kai who ruled both the underworld and the upper echelons. A man whose slightest gesture could erase someone without a trace. What on earth was I doing? Would he retaliate? Or just send a few people to take care of me? Regret for my rashness gnawed at me. The call earlier that day had already stolen my sleep. I ended up with two dark, panda eyes the next morning. Before heading home that day, I went to the city police station. After leaving, my mood lifted, and I felt a lot lighter. Fearing my parents would see my panda eyes, I even put on light makeup to hide them. Dragging my suitcase toward the school gate, ready to hail a taxi, a black Range Rover suddenly stopped in front of me. The window rolled down, revealing Kai's ever-persistent face. Nora, where are you headed? I'll give you a ride. I was about to explode in anger when I noticed several students nearby. Kai's car was already eye-catching. Although school was on break, many students were still around, curiously observing the car and dragging me into the attention as well. Kai said again, Nora, if you don't want all these eyes on you, I suggest you get in. Glancing at the growing crowd, I gritted my teeth and climbed into the car. Inside, I looked at the man driving. President Kai, what exactly do you want? You might as well just tell me. Kai feigned innocence. Nothing. Just wanted to treat you to a meal. I stared at him, unwilling to get involved in anything, and replied, President Kai, I'm on break. I'm going home. And I don't want to eat right now, I need to catch a train. To my dismay, Kai said, Nora, if you don't agree to have a meal, I'll just have to follow you home. I hear you have a younger brother. I stiffened, anger flashing. What are you planning? Kai chuckled lightly, his words sending chills down my spine. Nothing much. Just wanted to see. Taking a young boy to my place. He should enjoy it. Young people love excitement, don't they? My face drained of color. You, Kai, you're despicable. Nora, don't take it the wrong way. As long as you come to dinner. It's just a joke. After hesitating, I reluctantly nodded. Fine. Just dinner. I won't do anything else. Kai smiled faintly. Nora, I truly just want to have dinner with you. Or do you want me to do something else? I shook my head repeatedly, fury replacing the hatred in my eyes. Impossible. Don't say such things. Kai laughed lightly. Heh. Although I agreed to dinner, I secretly messaged Dee, my senior, beforehand, telling her to call me in an hour, and if she couldn't reach me, to alert the authorities. I even sent her the address of the restaurant. Kai was busy ordering when he noticed me fiddling with my phone. What? Afraid I'll sell you off? Secretly calling for help? I shivered. No. I'm just texting my parents to tell them I'm coming home today. Kai glanced at me and didn't comment further, instead ladling a bowl of soup toward me. Drink some. Their chicken soup is quite good. I pushed it back, scooping my own. No. I can do it myself. Kai raised an eyebrow but didn't seem offended. He really seemed to just want to have dinner. Throughout the meal, he barely touched his food, watching me instead. When we finished, I quickly said, "All right. Dinner's done. President Kai. May I go home now?" Kai smiled lightly. "You're the most unique girl I've ever met. Besides her." I knew who he meant but pretended ignorance. "I don't know what you're talking about, President Kai. I expect you to keep your word. My ride is almost here. I really should go." Kai looked at me again and smiled. "All right. I'll give you a lift." I shook my head, about to refuse, when he added, "This place is secluded. Few taxis come here." "Nora, you shouldn't lie." I hung my head, feeling exposed and defeated. "Nora. Oh Nora. So foolish, can't you at least act a little convincing?" Pathetic acting. Perhaps sensing my dejection, Kai reached out as if to touch my head, but I dodged. His hand hovered midair before slowly lowering. "Come on. I'll take you to the station. You really don't want to miss your train." I watched the man walking ahead, a flicker of something unreadable passing through my eyes. Kai hadn't lied, he had delivered me to the station and left. Even as I sat on the bus heading home, a surreal feeling lingered. I had shared a meal with Kai, the notorious drug lord, and now I was safely on my way home, even having been personally driven to the station by him. The world felt utterly fantastical. Soon, without a low sigh, my unease and fear were replaced by the excitement and joy of seeing my parent again, and I quickly pushed the strange thoughts from my mind. Back in town, sure enough, my parents were waiting at the station. Seeing me, they were so happy that tears streamed down their faces. I missed them just as much after these 3 or 4 months. Watching them cry made my heart ache. Thankfully, their emotions were fleeting, soon distracted by the little gifts I had brought for them. That evening at home, my father caught a chicken from the coop to prepare, while my brother helped gut a fish. I helped my mother in the kitchen, and seeing my father and brother busy with the preparations made my eyes sting. I silently wished these moments could last forever. After dinner, we sat around the stove, shelling sunflower seeds and chatting. Suddenly, someone called from outside, "Nora's mom. Nora's mom. Has your Nora come home?" My mother hurried to open the door, and shortly after, Arthur and Margaret walked in, hands rubbing together. My heart skipped a beat. Just as I feared, they were here. No sooner had they sat down than Margaret asked, "Nora, you and my Luna went to the same university, same class, and you've been close since childhood. Tell me the truth, is Luna seeing someone?" Arthur chimed in beside her. "Yeah. Nora, tell me, Luna's got a boyfriend, right?" I looked at the simple, earnest couple before me, unsure how to answer. My mother added, "Nora, you've always been closest to Luna. Same university, same class, even the same dorm. If she's seeing someone, you should know. Just tell Arthur and Margaret they're worried." "Yes, cutting fulfill wed sesh. Nora, Luna hasn't called us for over 2 months. We tried calling her, but she never picks up. Arthur and I are worried she might be in trouble." Their eyes were red, and I truly didn't know what to say. I also knew I couldn't keep the truth from them for long. So I said, "Arthur, Margaret, it's not that I don't want to tell you. I really don't know. Luna hasn't been back to school for over 2 months. But don't worry, she should be fine. She's probably just in a bad mood, taking some time off. In a few days, she'll call you." In the end, I lied to the elderly couple, unable to tell them the truth. How could I tell them that their daughter had dropped out, was being kept under someone else's control, and was now living a life of extravagance? They would have collapsed. Even if such a thing needed to be told, it would have to come from Luna herself. Yes, Luna was indeed fine now. I had just seen her social media post, a picture at a high-end restaurant, showing only her hands. But I was certain it was her. Still, how could I explain that to Arthur and Margaret? Besides, Luna herself hadn't planned to tell them. So how could I be the one to tattle? What? She hasn't been back to school for 2 months? I nodded. Yes. Why? Why is she in a bad mood? Did something happen? I don't know the details. She just said she was feeling down and wanted to take some time to clear her head. Can you reach her? Arthur asked anxiously. Sorry, Arthur. I can't get in touch either. But don't worry, I saw her social media yesterday. She seems to be in much better spirits. I showed them Luna's latest post from yesterday. After seeing it, Arthur and Margaret seemed to finally relax. This child, always so strong-willed, always wanting the best. Arthur and I can't give her everything, but we try to meet her needs as best we can. Now that she's grown and has her own thoughts, she doesn't tell us everything, always bottling things up. I worry it might make her sick. Nora, you've been close to her since childhood. When you have time, try to persuade her to come home more often. I looked away, unsure what to say, and nodded vaguely. That night, lying in bed, I couldn't sleep, tossing and turning, thinking of Arthur and Margaret's faces from earlier. I finally couldn't help myself and tried calling Luna. The call went straight to blocked. I had no choice but to dig through my call history and call Kai. The phone was answered quickly, and for some reason, his voice sounded almost excited. Hello, Nora. I didn't expect you to call. I cut him off coldly. Kai. Sorry. I just want to ask, is Luna with you? There was a brief, uneasy silence. She's here. But we aren't. That's good. Kai, heading full Silverhead session. Please tell Luna to call her parents, they're worried. You called me just to say that? I paused, unsure why he asked. Yes. Thanks. Kai. I hung up decisively, ignoring anything I might have said next. If Arthur and Margaret hadn't looked so pitiful, I wouldn't have bothered calling him. I stayed home for a week. Every day. My brother and I accompanied our parents to pay New Year visits. I grew even more attached to them, which puzzled them. Nora, is something bothering you? I was startled. No, not at all. Mom looked skeptical. Really nothing? You seem worried. I smiled. Mom, cutting fulfilled my obsession. No, you're overthinking. I just missed you and Dad so much. You know, I'll be busy with internships and exams. And I don't know when I'll be back to see you and my brother. I'll miss you. Hearing this, she relaxed. Child, if you miss us, you can come back anytime. Not enough money? My eyes stung. And I hugged her. No, there's enough. Over the next few days, we went on New Year visits everywhere. One day, we visited Margaret's house. She seemed to smile a little more. I guessed Luna had called them. A week later, I returned to Rongcheng. Though reluctant, I had to leave my parents early. That night, just after finishing work, I ran into Luna outside the KFC where I was working part-time the first time in over 3 months. She wore a light brown coat over a matching pencil skirt, her figure still flawless. But her bright, stunning face now showed traces of fatigue and a slightly pale complexion. When she saw me, a flicker of awkwardness crossed her eyes. I watched her silently until she spoke. Nora, long time no see. I nodded. Yeah, it's been a while. Seeing me respond, she hurried over and grabbed my hand. Nora, come on. I'll treat you to a late-night snack. Let's find a place to sit. I calmly shook off her hand. If you have something to say, just say it here. After that, I have to go back to the dorm. Curfew's coming soon. She hadn't expected such blunt rejection, and her expression soured for a moment. But she quickly recovered. All right then. Let's talk here, she said, and then, her voice took on a carefully veiled venom. Nora, do you like Kai? I shot my head up. What nonsense was she talking about? Me, like Kai? I'd have to be insane to like him. I don't like Kai, I said coldly. I've never been interested in anyone like him. So don't worry about me competing with you for him. Right now, all I want is to focus on graduating and preparing for exams. So please, don't bother me again. Luna chuckled lightly. Nora, don't get so worked up. I misunderstood. Consider this late night snack as me making amends. Okay? I didn't know what her game was. But I didn't want to get entangled with her. Coldly, I said, no thanks. I'm not hungry. With that, I hailed a taxi and went back to the dorm. I didn't notice the fleeting look of triumph on Luna's face as I turned away. She quickly tapped away on her phone, sending a voice message to her contact, saved as President Kai. The following weeks felt like I needed twice as many hours in a day. By day, I interned at my placement. By night, whenever I had no classes, I was in the library, preparing for exams. Occasionally, I took on part-time jobs, and all remaining time was spent buried in books. 2 months passed in a flash. One day, just as I was leaving the library, I received a call from Margaret. Nora, I'm at your school gate. Can you come out for a moment? Surprised, I said, okay, I'll be right there. At the school gate, Arthur and Margaret each carried a burlap bag filled with specialty products from home. Nora, Luna hasn't called us in over a month. We were a bit worried, so we talked to Arthur and decided to check on her. Margaret explained. She said she's intern at a big company and is busy. We didn't want to disturb her, but we were worried. Her phone's unreachable, so I had to call you. I watched the pair standing there, emotions swirling. Luna must have been trying to cover up her shady behavior by claiming she was busy with a big company internship. Margaret, Arthur, Luna is out at the moment. How about I take you somewhere to eat first? I suggested. That's fine. Nora. Thank you. Margaret replied. I put their bags away in the dorm and planned to take them for some spicy shrimp nearby. But as I came down, I saw from afar that Margaret and Arthur were arguing with someone. My heart tightened, and I rushed over. I could hear Margaret yelling, Luna, is this what you call an internship? Mom, Dad, why are you here? Luna demanded. If we didn't come, how would we know the disgraceful things you've been doing behind our backs? Margaret snapped. Look at what you're wearing, bare chest. Revealing. Is this your idea of work? What kind of job requires dressing like this? Luna's expression immediately dark, and when she saw me approaching. Nora. So it's you. Did you tell my parents? You're just jealous that I'm living better than you. She spat. You're so devious. I suggested introducing you to someone wealthy. But you pretended to be noble, claiming you wanted an ordinary life. And you snitched to my parents behind my back. Nora. You really know how to pretend. You vile girl. Slap. Margaret's hand hovered midair, tears streaming down her face. Apparently, she hadn't expected the daughter she raised to turn out this way. Luna covered her face, eyes wide with disbelief. Mom, you hit me. You hit me for Nora. That vile girl? I'm your daughter. Who are you really helping? Since you love her so much, fine, recognize her as your daughter. I'll never acknowledge you again. She opened the car door, ready to leave. Margaret quickly grabbed her. Luna, you've got it wrong. Nora didn't say anything to us. Your dad and I couldn't reach you, so we came to check on you. When she heard we hadn't eaten, she said she'd take us for a bite. Mom knows you're a good girl. No matter what you did before, your dad and I won't hold it against you. We forgive you. Just don't make the same mistakes again. Huh? Go back with you? What can you give me? A comfortable life? Pretty close? Margaret's lips trembled, but she couldn't respond. See? You can't. But President Kai can. Every morning I have people attending to me. Beautiful clothes. Exquisite jewelry. Endless designer bags. Nora works herself to the bone. And she doesn't even earn me a cup of coffee. I'm telling you. I've dropped out. I won't continue this worthless college. So stop sending me money. I have my own now. I don't need your pathetic handouts. Arthur's face twisted with anger, as if he wanted to slap her. He pointed at Luna. How dare you say that? We cramped and saved to give you the best, and you call it handouts? Luna, you have no conscience. He stammered, clearly infuriated. I couldn't stand it and steadied him. Luna, how can you say that about Arthur and Margaret? They gave you everything they had. They deserve better than that from you. So what if they gave me everything? It wasn't anything special. I don't care. Luna retorted. Besides, they're my parents. Isn't it their duty to give me things? Why praise them for it? If you think they're so great, let them give everything to you. Be their daughter. I'm done living like a poor girl with them. Margaret, eyes red, pulled Arthur aside. Let's go. This is her choice. We can't control her. She's chosen this path. And there's nothing we can do. In the end, Luna climbed into Kai's car. Kai had remained unseen the entire time. And I had no idea if he was even in the car. But honestly, it didn't matter. I didn't care. I took Arthur and Margaret out for a bite, though they barely touched their food. Afterwards, Margaret asked if I had known all along that Luna had followed someone. I could only nod helplessly. Margaret didn't say much, wiping her tears as she muttered about giving birth to such an ungrateful child. That night, they took a train home. I had wanted them to stay in Rongcheng for at least one night, but they insisted on returning. So I escorted them to the station. Watching their train disappear, a heavy weight settled in my chest as I returned to school. At the school entrance, a black Rolls-Royce was parked. I recognized the owner, Kai. I tried to ignore it and planned to slip past. But Kai had already opened the car door and was walking toward me. There was no escaping. I had to stand my ground and see what would happen. Nora, are you trying to hide from me? He looked down at me, and I stepped back to create some distance before meeting his gaze. What did Kai say? I don't understand. Heh. Nora seems to enjoy playing dumb. But honestly, unfulfilledly, it's kind of cute. I looked up sharply, giving him a look that said, You've got to be kidding me. Kai, I've said it before, I'm not Luna. I just want a normal life. I don't think we're from the same world. If you feel I've given you the wrong impression, just tell me, and I'll fix it. Please don't use me for your amusement. I don't have endless time to play games. I have things to do. With that, I turned away and walked past him into the school, ignoring his expression. Over the next period, Kai appeared around me. Sometimes intentionally, sometimes not. I no longer resisted. Occasionally, having fulfilled my obsession, he invited me out to eat, and I accepted without hesitation. But just because I didn't care didn't mean others didn't. One day, as I slipped into my work uniform at the coffee shop, a colleague nudged me and whispered, Nora, look, over there, what a beauty. I followed her gaze and saw Luna, in her custom-fitted outfit, casually sipping coffee. She always orders the most expensive coffee and dessert without batting an eye. My colleague added. I scoffed quietly. Generous? Sure, she wasn't paying. I ignored her after that, focusing on my own work. When the CAF closed and everyone had left, I changed out of my uniform and stepped outside only to find Luna waiting there. Her visit to the CAF may have been casual, but waiting for me was deliberate. The moment she saw me, anger flared in her eyes. I didn't understand where it came from, but before I could speak, she struck me hard across the face. I stumbled, almost falling. Luna, what the hell are you doing? I'm furious. Nora, don't you understand what you've done? Always fighting me for things? Even men I've been with, you go after them? I suddenly realized who she meant, Kai. Huh. Only she could fail to see what kind of man Kai really was. Wiping the blood from my mouth, I said, Luna, you think I seduced Kai? Go ask him yourself who's really the one clinging to him like a fly. Luna laughed, a little maniacally. Nora, don't fool yourself, he's not into you. He's after you because you're a virgin college girl. He loves girls who haven't been touched because it's exciting for him. Don't delude yourself. You're boring and dull. Can't dress up or present yourself properly. Compared to me, you're nowhere near. I said coldly. Oh really? Then why come all the way here to say that to me? I thought you were afraid I'd steal him. Her face darkened. As if someone like you could ever get his favor. Dream on. I smirked. Then by all means. Cling to him every night. That way he won't bother me. I turned and left. Ignoring her flushed, curious face. After that, Kai truly didn't appear around me. And I felt an incredible relief. Finally, I could focus on exams. After more than 3 months of intense preparation, my civil service exam was over. Stepping out of the testing hall, I imagined myself saluting the national flag outside the municipal police station. As I followed the crowd out, someone called my name. Nora. The exam's over. I looked up and saw Kai, dressed in a black shirt, leaning against a car and waving. The relaxation I felt moments ago was instantly clouded. Dark and oppressive. This man was fearless and infamous drug lord, yet boldly showing up here. Other examinees had noticed, glancing curiously in our direction. I ignored Kai and kept walking. But as I reached the bus stop, I saw his black Bentley slowly following me. Finally, I tapped on the window, signaling him to stop, and got in. Kai, what do you want? I've told you before I'm not interested in you and will never be your mistress. Please don't come after me again. Also, kading facile liabsai. I've passed the civil service exam. I'll become a police officer. And I'll be your enemy. I swear. I will track down every drug dealer. Unexpectedly, Kai nodded. I believe you'll succeed. But first, let's consider it an early celebration of your soon-to-be police career. Me. No, Kai, isn't he some notorious drug lord? Hearing me say that, he didn't flinch. Could it be that he didn't even consider me worth noticing? Was it because he thought I was no threat? Or that he didn't take the police seriously at all? Kai, of course, had no idea what I was thinking. He simply asked, what do you want to eat? Hot pot? Steak? Or spicy skewers? I was taken aback. How did he know I liked those things? A chill ran through me. Could it be that Kai had already known I would become a police officer? And had someone watching me all along? That's why he wasn't afraid of me. I cut him off coldly. I don't want to eat. If you want someone to eat with, go find Luna. Isn't she your lover? At the mention of Luna's name, the faint smile on Kai's lips twisted into a cold sneer. Luna? The one Dylan played with. She thinks she deserves my bed? My heart jolted. What did you do to her? Kai's sneer disappeared, replaced by a calm gaze. Nora. I didn't do anything to her. She just wouldn't obey. So I locked her up. He reached out to touch my face. But I dodged. Nora. Don't be afraid. I won't treat you like I treated Luna. I can't bear to. My whole body shivered. I forced a tone of anger. Kai. Please don't come looking for me again. If Luna finds out you came for me, she'll kill me. I'm asking you, don't let her misunderstand. And don't put me in danger. A flicker of coldness passed through Kai's eyes. Don't worry. I won't let her hurt you. You'd better mean it. I said. After that, I didn't avoid Kai deliberately. I even had a few meals with him. And he gradually began to trust me. I told him that because of Luna, I couldn't sleep well, and had to take sleeping pills every night. I visited the hospital every few days. One day, after finishing an interview, I left the city police station. All the way, heading for Filbwansai. I felt as if someone was following me. But whenever I stopped and looked back, there was no one. I sighed, realizing my nerves were frayed to the point of hallucination, and continued walking. Then, let out a lull sigh. Entering a deserted alley, I felt a shadow behind me. Someone clamped a hand over my mouth, and darkness swallowed me. When I awoke, my hands were tied behind a chair. A cloth shoved into my mouth. In the dim light, I saw the surroundings, an abandoned factory, littered with old machinery. Silence pressed in, broken only by the drip of water from above. Footsteps approached. I quickly closed my eyes and pretended to sleep. I heard someone say, Luna, ahahahaha. Should we splash water to wake her? The drug should be wearing off. Splash her. Once she's awake, it's more fun to play with her. I want some fresh pictures. Preferably, hadn't fulfilled me. Ones where Nora begs you. That way, Kai won't want her anymore. My heart sank. It really was Luna. For a man. She had coldly brought me here to be violated. My best friend after more than 20 years of friendship had turned so cruel. She believed Kai treated her badly only because of me. So she had to destroy me. But she never considered herself at fault. The problem was always someone else. In her previous life, she blamed me for holding her back from being chosen by Dylan to become a wealthy socialite. In this life, I didn't hold her back. Dylan chose her. She was given to Kai, fulfilling her dream. But now, since she couldn't keep Kai, she blamed me again. People like her are never satisfied, they'll always think the problem lies elsewhere. Cold water splashed over me, waking me. Luna approached, lifted my chin, and pulled the cloth from my mouth. Nora, didn't expect to see me. Did you? Surprised? I glared at her. I didn't expect this. I didn't expect you to become like this. Didn't expect you to hate me so much. Luna, Nora, have always treated you well. Why are you doing this to me? She laughed bitterly. Treated me well? You watched as Dylan chose me. Defilled me. And treated me like a gift for that pervert Kai. If you truly cared for me, you should have stopped it. Or like last life, held me back, never let Dylan see me. Then I wouldn't be his plaything now. Beaten and trained like a dog every day. I was shocked Luna had also been reborn. She tore open her clothes in front of me. Across her body were crisscrossed rip marks. New and old. Even some burns from cigarettes. Seeing my shock, she laughed maniacally. Scared? It's your fault. If it weren't for you, Kai wouldn't have abandoned me. You seduced him. And he became obsessed with you. I'm prettier. Better dressed. Better at pleasing him than you, but he ignored me. He even said I wasn't worth a single fingernail of yours. I can't accept it. How am I worse than you? He humiliates me like this, it'll destroy you. Make him suffer. As long as your purity is gone, he won't think of you anymore. I realized the Luna before me was completely deranged. She meant what she said, she would destroy me. She signaled the others behind her to move forward. Luna, do you hate me so much that you want me dead? Yes. Only if you die will Kai stop thinking about you. Only then will I feel relief. You destroyed me. It was you. Only you. At that moment, it felt as if millions of ants were crawling under my skin. The itch was sharp and unbearable, stabbing at my nerves. I forced myself to stay calm, biting my tongue hard to create a different kind of pain. Something to jolt my senses and keep me conscious. Seeing several men approaching me, I screamed. Get away. Don't touch me. Don't cared. Bang. The gunshot rang out. And everything fell into silence. The sound of the shot shattered the fragile will I had been clinging to, plunging me into darkness. When I woke again, I was lying on a hospital bed. My senior was dozing in the chair beside me. Hearing me stir, she opened her eyes and hurried over. You're awake. Any pain anywhere? Much better. Thank you. Thank you. Senior. If it weren't for you and the police arriving on time, I managed a bitter smile. She waved it off. Don't mention it. But really, Nora, how did you know Luna would come after you? I didn't. I just felt like someone was following me the past few days. So I sent you a message that day. She nodded, seemingly convinced. I stayed in the hospital for 3 days. The doctor said aside from minor abrasions, I was fine, rest at home would suffice. Meanwhile, my civil service interview notification arrived. As expected, I passed the assessment. And they scheduled my physical examination 2 weeks later. I shared the news with my parents. They were so excited they could barely speak. My eyes stung as well. Thinking back to the kidnapping. If it weren't for my senior and the police, I might have been destroyed. Forget being a civil servant. I wouldn't even be alive. A profound sense of survival filled me, strengthening another resolve. So when Kai came looking for me that day, I told him how Luna had kidnapped me. How close I had come to death. He said nothing, but his cold eyes glinted with a serpentine chill. Hidden from his view, I curled my lips slightly. Later, I went to the municipal police station and handed over the recordings of Luna and some other evidence I had collected. The police took my report seriously and promised a satisfactory response. A week later, I learned that Luna had been arrested, along with her husband Kai's subordinate. I knew Kai had played a part in this. This was exactly the outcome I wanted. Luna had finally paid the price for her actions. On the day Luna was transferred to the municipal prison, I made a special trip there. I hadn't wanted to, but I'd heard from a senior inside that Luna had gone insane crying, screaming, and acting erratically all day. When I saw her, it was true. She was skeletal. Her eye sockets hollow. Her former radiance gone. She looked like a shriveled old woman, scarred with both new and old wounds frightening to behold. She oscillated between crying and laughing, demanding to see me, then crying out for Jake. The moment she uttered his name, my eyes widened. She lunged at me, cursing with venomous words. I remained calm and unmoved, perhaps provoked by my composure. She suddenly smiled a twisted, eerie smile. "Nora, you think you can stay by his side? Dream on. You're just a substitute. He likes you only because you resemble her." When I didn't respond, she resumed cursing. "You're jealous. Nora. You're jealous that Jake treated me well. Jealous that I was happy. That's why in this life you deliberately didn't stop me. Let me be chosen by Dylan. And watched me descend step by step into the abyss." I looked at the hysterical woman before me, speechless. Luna had always been selfish. She never took responsibility. Any fault was always someone else's. In my past life, I had feared she would be chosen by Dylan and handed to Kai, ruining her life. So I sent her to help at the CAFF. In the end, she blamed me for blocking her dream of wealth and ruthlessly pushed me from a high building. In this life, I chose to ignore her, to let her pursue her desired life of luxury. Yet even so, she blamed me. No matter what I did, as long as she was unhappy, I was at fault. I looked at the deranged woman and said nothing more. "Luna, the path you chose is your own. In this life or the last, you must bear the consequences of your choices. You have no right to blame anyone. You could have had a bright future, a wonderful life, loving family, but you cast all that aside with your own hands. So don't blame anyone." Having said that, I turned my back on her twisted face and left the municipal prison. The day of my physical examination arrived, and my excitement about joining the police was shattered by a crushing blow. I failed. Walking out of the hospital with the report in hand, silent tears streamed down my face. I didn't take a taxi. I wandered the streets aimlessly. A low-profile black Volkswagen followed me the entire way. I pretended not to notice and slowly made my way back to my apartment. As soon as I entered, I lifted a corner of the window and sure enough, the black Volkswagen was parked below my building. I dialed Kai's number. When he answered, he sounded surprised, with a trace of uncertainty. "Nora? Kai, I didn't pass the physical. I can't become a police officer anymore." My voice wavered with a hint of sobbing. "What should I do? I feel so lost." There was a pause on the other end. "You really can't be a cop?" I nodded. "Yes. There was a problem with the physical. I didn't make it." After a few seconds, he said, "Don't cry. I know. What can I do to make you happy?" I hesitated. "Kai, I think I'm a failure. I feel like my life has no hope." His tone grew anxious, almost panicked. "Nora, tell me. What should I do? Do you really want to help me?" "Yes. As long as you ask, I'll do it." "Then, tonight, could you come with me for a walk by the Fanglin River? Just the two of us. I don't want too many people around." There was a moment of silence. And he said, "Okay." After hanging up, my palms were soaked with sweat. The Fanglin River stretches along the edge of the city, and at night it's nearly deserted. Soon, let out a low sigh. Darkness settled over the sky. I hadn't eaten all day on purpose, though I had baked a cake at home myself. Before leaving, I changed into a white dress I'd bought online some time ago, swapped my crescent moon earrings for a pair of small square studs. I went downstairs, carrying the cake. Seeing the black Volkswagen waiting, I walked straight to it. I opened the door and got in. Kai was already inside, as expected. I glanced at the driver up front. Kai noticed my gaze. It's fine. He's just a temporary driver I called. He said. Then looked at me for a long moment. Your outfit looks really nice today. I forced a smile that was worse than crying. Really? Too bad. No matter what I do today, I can't feel happy. Maybe a walk with me will cheer you up, he said. I nodded. I hope so. I lifted the cake. Actually, it's my birthday today. Doesn't that make me even more miserable? Important day. Yet you fail your physical, he murmured. I looked bleak. You haven't eaten all day? Kai asked. I nodded. No. Would you mind sharing a bite of cake with me? Kai stayed silent. I didn't say anything either. The car soon stopped by the Finglin River. I noticed several cars trailing us, but pretended not to see. I got out first, carrying the cake, and headed to the riverbank. Kai followed after a brief pause. We sat by the river in silence until Kai spoke. Don't be upset. If the physical didn't work out, it didn't. From now on. With me too. Anything you want. You'll have it. I looked up. I know you have money. Kai. What do you do? I asked casually. He stared at me for a moment, then said. If I tell you, you'd be terrified. I laughed. What kind of job could scare me? What if I told you I'm a drug lord? Would you believe me? I laughed again. Lightly. Then tell me, how do you traffic drugs? Where's your stash? And where do you sell it? Kai watched me, smiling. Aren't you afraid of me? Why would I be afraid? If I were truly afraid, I wouldn't be here having dinner with you. You don't really believe me, do you? I smiled. I believe you. I do. Yet his expression made it clear he didn't believe I believed him. I laughed, took out the cake, and began to unwrap it. But then he started recounting his drug dealings. The family's rue and by his narcotics. He spoke casually, smiling as he described it, with no hint of guilt. My hands trembled over the cake. A fleeting gleam passed through my downcast eyes. Then I steadied myself and continued. I heard him ask. Afraid of me now? I didn't answer. Just cut a piece and took a bite. Then I cut another and offered it to Kai. Here, it's homemade. He stared at me for a long moment. Forget it. The cake in my hand was taken. And I watched Kai nibble at it. How is it? It's my first time making it. Don't complain if it's bad. I spent the whole afternoon on it. He paused. Then finished the piece with the cherry on top. My tense heart relaxed slightly. Kai, can you sleep at night? When you wake from nightmares, do you think of those families you've ruined? You just asked if I was afraid of you, he said. Now I can answer. I'm not afraid. I hate. I wish you could be torn apart. And all the drug traffickers be caught. So the souls destroyed by drugs could rest in peace. Kai suddenly grabbed my neck. Nora. What do you mean? My chest tightened. Oxygen and dwindling. I looked at the furious man. And smiled. Kai. Do you know why I agreed to have dinner with you? Do you know why I deliberately wore this dress? Because I knew this was the only way to slowly earn your trust. Do you really think a devil like you deserves love? You're a demon from hell. Your hands are stained with so many lives. Dying 1,000 times wouldn't atone for your sins. Aren't you afraid I'll kill you? Kai's voice was ice cold. His eyes venomous as a snake. Do you really think I came alone to see you? He sneered. The moment I stepped into the police station, I didn't expect to survive. Kai. I'm just one among millions. My life. Such a small life. Is worth yours, the life of a drug lord? What do you mean? Nora. What do you mean? Kai. I forgot to tell you, today is indeed my birthday. But this cake isn't for me. It's specially for you. I put a hefty dose of sleeping pills in it. I know you wouldn't trust me easily enough to eat it. So I had to take a bite first to show you. I know a cunning, sinister person like you would never trust me outright. That's why every slice is drugged, just that your piece has a little extra. You're insane. Aren't you afraid of dying? I am. How could I not be afraid? But if I die and it brings a demon like you to justice, and I will have died for a worthy cause. I gazed at the moon hanging in the sky. My heart inexplicably calm. The air in my lungs grew thin, darkness creeping into my vision. Before succumbing completely, I heard the rapid wail of police sirens. When I woke again, I was in a hospital bed. My eyes first caught my father, mother, and younger brother. On the other side sat Samuel, the captain of the city's anti-narcotics unit, my mentor from my previous life. I spoke. Mom. Dad. Little brother. Samuel. I added. My parents and brother had red eyes. My mother held my hand, tears streaming incessantly. Nora. Such a dangerous thing, why did you hide it from us? She sobbed. Do you realize that if Samuel hadn't arrived with the police in time, you would be dead? Woo woo woo. My father said nothing, but his eyes were red too. Sis. How could you put yourself in such danger without telling us? That man is a major drug lord, you know that, right? I waved him off. I know. But precisely because he's a major drug lord, a demon who's ruined countless families, I chose to act as bait. Mom. Dad. Don't blame Samuel. All of this was my choice. I turned to the middle-aged men opposite me. Samuel. Kai. Nora. I know what you're about to ask, Samuel said. Kai is under our control. We've retrieved the recorder from your ear. And the drug dens Kai mentioned, and we sent teams to them. At first, I didn't agree with your plan. But now I see I was wrong. Without you, we couldn't have captured Kai so quickly, nor discovered those dens. But, Nora, I hope that once you join the force, you won't take such reckless risks again. Always consult us first. Understood? I froze. Then my mouth dropped open. Samuel, does that mean I can join the police force? Samuel smiled. Of course. Your medical exam passed. And even before officially joining, you helped the Bureau accomplish a monumental operation. We should give you an award. I shook my head with a smile. No need. I just want to keep working with you to take down drug traffickers. Outside the window, a shaft of golden light slowly rose, gradually illuminating the city. The darkness would inevitably give way to light. Justice may be delayed, but it will never be absent. The end. My roommate Ivy linked my account to the balance exchange system, and whenever my balance exceeded hers, it would automatically transfer to match her balance. In my previous life, my family was too poor to afford my tuition. I had to take on 3 part-time jobs to cover an entire semester's fees. Just when I thought I had finally saved up the 6,000 yuan for tuition, the staff at the payment office reminded me that my balance was insufficient, and the fee deduction had failed. I went to the bank to check my account and even called the police, but I was treated like a fraud. Every transaction on my bank statement was crystal clear. Yet this didn't add up for someone like me, who worked 3 jobs and saved diligently. I called my parents back home, crying, but to my surprise, they didn't believe me either. Brianna, did you spend the tuition money recklessly? If you didn't use it, how come there's spending activity? You're just lying to us. I told my roommates about the situation. But not only did they not believe me, they blamed me. You, a poor student, spent 38 yuan on a cup of milk tea? Are you crazy? My parents give me an extra 500 yuan for snacks every month. But I wouldn't spend that much. Yeah. And you don't even work properly. Running off to sing karaoke? Another roommate pointed to a charge on the bill. Fuming, I posted everything on Weibo, but everyone just called me an attention-seeking fraud. Only one anonymous commenter suggested that perhaps my card had been duplicated and used fraudulently, advising me to keep an eye out for anyone spending extravagantly. I watched Ivy closely for a while, and sure enough, she bought a lot of things recently. I confronted Ivy about it, but she accused me of having paranoid delusions and rallied classmates and teachers to isolate me. In the end, I got sick and couldn't afford treatment. I was tricked into going to an illegal clinic, where they drained my organs and left me to die. My soul couldn't rest. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to the day before I was supposed to pay my tuition. Realizing I had been reborn, just like a character in a novel, I quickly checked my balance on my phone's banking app. To my surprise, there was only 21 yuan left. At that moment, Ivy had already used some method to transfer my money to her account. I was furious and wanted to beat Ivy senseless. Perhaps even to the point of death. To put an end to everything. But then I remembered my parents from my past life. Who were so devastated by my loss that they had ended their lives. I couldn't bring myself to follow such an extreme path. I couldn't just sit idly by as I did in my previous life. So I decided to lie low for now. At that moment, my roommate Grace asked, "Why haven't you gone to work yet? You usually go by this time." I explained that I was exhausted lately. That I had enough for tuition. And needed some rest. As I spoke, I jumped off the bed and ran to the corner of the hallway to call the 3 part-time bosses. Lying that I was sick and would need to take a week off. Since I was usually hardworking and reliable, all 3 bosses were very kind to me and would never suspect that I was lying just to slack off. Feeling a little guilty, I was heading back to my dorm when I heard Ivy, just like in the past life, yelling at the top of her lungs. I won 0 yuan in the lottery. Come on. Everyone. Let's celebrate with a meal. I realized what was going on. In my previous life, she had used my tuition money to make herself look good. In the past, I had foolishly refused. Because I had to go to work. But this time, I immediately responded. I'm so lucky. Someone's treating me to dinner today because I'm taking a break. Ivy, surprised to see me come back, asked, "Aren't you supposed to be working? Why aren't you going today?" "I'm tired. Just resting. I won't go today. And maybe I won't go at all in the future." Ivy's eyes flashed when she heard this. I pretended not to notice and continued chatting with them. "Where are we going to eat? We shared a dorm for 2 years. But I've never been to such a gathering." "What a pity." Chloe glanced at me and said, "You're just realizing that now? I've had no idea how to get along with you. You only care about working. And I'm too afraid to even talk to you. Afraid I'll disturb your money making." Hearing this, I remembered that in my previous life, after the incident, Chloe was the only one who didn't blame me. I smiled and awkwardly explained. My family isn't well off. And they couldn't afford to send me to school. But I didn't want to settle for a teaching job or a technical school. So I had no choice but to work part-time while studying. The other roommates fell silent upon hearing this. Chloe came over and patted my shoulder in sympathy. I gave her a grateful smile. At that moment, Lucy walked in, tossing her books onto the desk, and asked, "Why didn't you apply for a poverty scholarship? I thought you just didn't like hanging out with us." "I didn't. Actually. I applied for it in my first year. I passed the preliminary review. But for some reason, they cancelled it later." When I said that, everyone seemed to recall something and looked toward Ivy. I stared at her too. And she flustered, quickly explaining, "I didn't know she needed it. It was the counselor who specifically gave it to me." Saying that, she tossed the things she had bought onto the table. At a glance, they were all high-end cosmetics that we usually couldn't afford. Okay. Let's stop talking about that. Same old. I'll treat everyone to a 3 flavors to pot at the school gate. How about that? Ivy changed the subject. 3 flavors to pot, that name sounded so familiar. That's right. In my last life, I had a charge from this restaurant on my bill too. Grace immediately voiced her displeasure. "You won 0 yuan and you're treating us to a 200 yuan to pot. That's not quite right. Especially now that Brianna's here too. It won't be enough. Let's pick something else." Yeah. Or how about you take us to Heidai Lao? With 6 of us from the dorm. Do you know how much that'll cost? Ivy exclaimed. It's not that much. They have lots of free snacks there. None of us are big eaters. Don't worry. You won't go bankrupt. Someone chimed in. Hearing this, Ivy hesitated for a moment, as if making a big decision, before agreeing. Fine. Let's do it. Our group of 6 went to the Heidai Lao hot pot in the city center. We were soon seated by the waiter. And as we went through the menu, we each took turns ordering. Except for Ivy. Everyone seemed to have prioritized it. We all silently ordered a lot of meat. When the food arrived, we dug in happily. During the meal, everyone encouraged Ivy to order more seafood and drinks. Full and satisfied, we leaned back in our seats. chatting and laughing. But Ivy was the only one distracted. Her eyes glued to the bill. I quietly observed, waiting for what would happen next. As expected, the total for this meal came to 1,631 yuan. She reluctantly paid the bill, and everyone silently pretended not to notice her expression. Suddenly, I felt my phone vibrate. I paused, took out my phone, and saw a text message on the screen. Your agricultural bank account has received 1631 yuan. I was so excited that I almost shouted out loud. So that's how it is. I controlled my expression, suppressed my excitement, and quickly caught up with everyone. Casually observing Ivy. She was still absorbed in her shock about being overcharged, not noticing anything unusual. Seeing her reaction, I feared I might be wrong. So I decided to observe a little longer. That night, after we returned to the dorm and packed up, we quickly fell asleep. Suddenly, tap-on, I was jolted awake by a series of vibrations from my phone. I crawled under the covers, opened my phone, and saw a string of notifications. Your agricultural bank account has received 27.8 yuan. Your agricultural bank account has received 30.7 yuan. Your agricultural bank account has received 15.9 yuan. Your agricultural bank account has received 9.9 yuan. Your agricultural bank account has received 157.8 yuan. I was so thrilled that I almost jumped up. Now, my balance was 1875.1 yuan. I turned off the screen, climbed out of bed, and quietly glanced at Ivy, who was sleeping diagonally across from me. I saw her phone screen still lit up, which meant she had probably made another online purchase. I roughly figured out the pattern of how Ivy transferred money from my card. Whenever I worked, the money I earned would eventually flow into Ivy's account. Whenever I lay low, eating, drinking, and having fun, the amount she spent would return to my account in the same amount. What is this? This is amazing. It spares me the hardship of working while still letting me spend money. I had no idea about this in my past life. How foolish I was. At the thought of this, I smiled happily. Tomorrow, I'll have a large sum deposited again for my tuition. I just need to delay paying it for a little while. With that comforting thought, I drifted back into a peaceful sleep. The next morning, everyone agreed to go pay their tuition fees and asked if I was coming. I declined, telling them I had something to do and would go later. When Ivy heard this, she looked at me with a knowing smile. I smiled back, playing dumb. Who would have thought that when she saw me, she smiled even more widely, her eyes almost mocking me. I wondered if she would still be smiling when she found out that the money in her card had decreased. After they left, I put on my hat and mask and quietly followed them. I kept my distance to avoid being noticed, and only approached when they entered the payment office. I hid behind the door and listened. Teacher, we're here to pay the tuition fees. Grace's voice rang out. All right. Please place your bank cards inside your student IDs and hand them to me. Soon, I heard the constant beep of the POS machine confirming successful payments. I heard it 5 times, which meant Ivy had also paid. This confirmed that there was not just my 6,000 yuan in her card, but probably even more. I didn't linger any longer. I quickly turned and went upstairs, hiding in a corner. After a while, I received a notification that 6,000 yuan had been deposited into my account. I waited until I no longer heard their footsteps before coming downstairs. I hurriedly paid my tuition fee so there wouldn't be any unnecessary delays. After paying, receiving the receipt, I felt like a heavy stone had been lifted off my chest. I was suddenly much lighter. Looking at the 1,800 yuan left in my account, I found myself in a dilemma. Should I spend it? Who knows if I'll get more in the future? But if I don't spend it, what if it ends up back in Ivy's hands again? After all, I had already stopped my part-time job. So I ran to the cafeteria and loaded 1,000 yuan onto my meal card. With a monthly food allowance of 200 yuan, I wouldn't have to worry about starving until the end of the semester. With the remaining 800 yuan, I followed Ivy's example and placed online orders. I bought a bunch of daily necessities, sanitary pads, tissues, toilet paper, shampoo, and body wash. I bought everything. In the end, I still had over 300 yuan left in my card, which I kept for emergencies. To my surprise, money continued to flow into my account every day. While I was happy, I also had some concerns. I still didn't know what this was or how the money kept being transferred into my account. I wasn't sure if it would backfire in the future, so I didn't spend any more of it. But there was one thing that worked in my favor right now. I could finally sit quietly in the library and read without worrying about whether I had enough money or how I was going to pay my next tuition. I finally understood why everyone wanted to be rich. 7 days passed, and my leave from the 3 part-time jobs was about to end. I had just returned to the dorm after lunch when I saw Ivy crying. When she saw me, she quickly wiped her tears, as if not wanting me to see. I didn't say anything, just returned to my seat and ate while looking at my phone. I noticed that Ivy seemed hesitant, as if she wanted to talk to me. I kept eating. Finally, having fulfilled my sigh, she couldn't hold it in anymore and cautiously asked, "Brianna, you really aren't going to work anymore? Didn't you say that without a job, you wouldn't have money for tuition?" It seemed like she had figured it out. I had no choice. Last time, I hurt my hand and leg while moving something. It doesn't affect my daily life, but I can't work at the moment. Then what about your tuition? She asked anxiously. I haven't saved enough yet. But there's nothing I can do. I just need to heal my injuries first. Hearing this, Ivy became even more anxious. You can't just sit around. You have to go. You can't not pay your tuition. You'll get expelled. I thought to myself, who is she trying to scare? So I replied, don't worry. I went to the fee office the day before yesterday. They said that because of my special situation, I can pay late. If it really doesn't work, I'll apply for a student loan or financial aid. That won't do. Ivy suddenly raised her voice. Realizing she had overreacted, she quickly corrected herself. But using this kind of money that you didn't work for, how can you feel at ease? You're so hardworking. You shouldn't use this money. Money should be earned through work. That way it feels right. She winked and moved closer to me, continuing. Also, having wholesale led session. Student loans need to be repaid, and I heard the interest is high. You absolutely can't apply for one. She pretended to be friendly as she put her arm around my shoulder. If it's really difficult, I can help you find a part-time job. You'll be able to relax a little. Her eyes were darting around as she spoke, and I wondered what she was scheming this time. But from what she said, I picked up another clue. This thing that allows her to transfer money for me can't transfer the passive money I receive. It can only transfer the money I earn through labor. No wonder she kept pressuring me to work. So I deliberately put on a pitiful expression and said to her, I was forced into this situation, and that's why I thought of applying for a student loan. I know the interest is high, but I can't just wait to be expelled. Can I? Ivy didn't want to push me too hard, as she feared it might alert the snake. So she said, all right. Then, I'll help you find a lighter part-time job soon. Thank you so much. If you find one, I'll treat you to a meal, I said, feeling happy. Who would have known? The next day, having fulfilled my session, she gave me a huge surprise. She brought me to the entrance of a notorious foot massage parlor in the city. Pointing inside, she said, they're short on staff here. The pay's high, having fulfilled my sesh, and it's not much work. Then she started pushing me toward the door. I struggled, gripping the wall, refusing to go any further. I turned to glare at her. What are you doing? I'm not going. Suddenly, I felt someone grab me from behind. Turning around, I saw a heavily made-up older woman pulling me forcefully inside. Seeing this, I was even more scared. But Ivy seemed to see her back up and pushed me even harder. Just go inside. This job is easy. You can make money lying on the bed. I'm not going. Ivy, you're breaking the law. Let go of me. I yelled desperately. You have to go in today, or I'll starve to death. Ivy almost blurted out the truth in her nervousness. Aren't you afraid I'll call the police? You're scum, I shouted. Suddenly, I felt a heavy blow to my head. Realizing things weren't clear yet, I decided to fake unconsciousness to make her pay. I pressed my hands to my head and slowly collapsed to the ground. Both Ivy and the older woman burst into laughter. This little girl sure has some strength. If I hadn't come, this would have fallen through. Right. Thank you so much. After we're done, I'll treat you to a meal. Suddenly, they picked me up and started dragging me inside. After winding through several corridors, I was dropped onto a bed in a room. Quick, having fulfilled my session. Before she wakes up, call the client and make this happen. I'll change her clothes and do her makeup. Ivy said confidently, as though she was used to this. All right. I'll go grab the clothes. Lilith, hurry up, get something more revealing. The old woman came back after a while, handing over the clothes before leaving. Taking advantage of Ivy's momentary distraction, I grabbed a wooden stick and struck her hard, knocking her out. Just to be sure. I pinched her a few times to make sure she wouldn't wake up. Once I saw she was unconscious, I relaxed, locked the door, and began changing her clothes and doing her makeup. To avoid giving anything away, I intentionally posed her face down. Everything was ready, and I listened by the door. There was no noise. I quickly opened the door and tiptoed outside, avoiding 3 corridors. Suddenly, I heard a man's voice and Lilith's voice coming from the other side. Boss, don't worry. The goods are good today. Fresh. You'll be satisfied. Good. I love fresh ones. Treat me well, and you'll be rewarded. How disgusting. The voices grew closer, so I quickly stepped into a nearby empty room, hiding in the darkness. I waited for them to pass and then hurried out, finally bursting through the front door. I kept running, glancing behind me a few times. When I saw no one following, I finally felt safe enough to stop. Looking up at the sun in the sky, I marveled at the beauty of the outside world. With that, I made my way back to school on my own. On the bus, until so wide sigh, I thought about Ivy, wondering what would happen to her next. Back at school, to celebrate surviving the ordeal, I treated myself to a hearty 3 flavors to pot and a milk tea, leaving me stuffed to the point of burping. When I returned to the dorm, everyone was there except Ivy. They looked at me, puzzled, asking what had happened since I looked so disheveled. I glanced down and saw that my clothes were wrinkled and covered in dust. Embarrassed, I smiled awkwardly and explained. I went to the park, and I accidentally fell off the swing. I didn't say a word about Ivy taking me to the foot massage parlor. Ivy hadn't returned all night. The next morning, when everyone was preparing to leave for class, Ivy came in, her face dark and terrifying, her neck bruised with both blue and red marks. When she saw me standing there unharmed, she burst into tears. Everyone stopped what they were doing and immediately gathered around her. Are you okay? Why didn't you come back last night? And why are you crying now? Did someone hurt you? Tell us. Don't just cry. We'll help you. Maybe she realized she couldn't tell the truth, and she immediately stopped crying. Wiping her tears, she said, It's nothing. I just spent the night at an internet CIF playing games, and I lost a few hundred yuan. We thought it was something serious. It's nothing. Just a few hundred. You have plenty. Yeah. Come on. Let's go to class. The others urged Ivy. Forget it. I'm not going today. I'm too tired. Just mark me as present for roll call. Ivy said. Okay. Take a nap here. We're leaving, they said. And they left. I was about to follow them out when Ivy suddenly grabbed my sleeve and said loudly, Brianna, I ran out of sanitary pads. Can you lend me 2? Once everyone left, she quickly locked the door, glared at me, and said, Brianna, what's wrong with you? Why did you knock me out yesterday? Tears started streaming down her face again as she sobbed. You weren't knocked out? And now you dare to question me? You're the crazy one, I said, attempting to leave, but she blocked the door. Why didn't you take me with you yesterday? Do you know what they did to me? She cried louder. I don't know. And I don't want to know. All I know is, those who do evil will be punished. You bastard. They raped me. You killed me. Stop blaming me. If you hadn't tricked me into going to that place, would any of this have happened? Move aside. I need to go to class. I warn you, I warn you. If you tell anyone about what happened yesterday, I'll destroy you. Ivy shouted. Huh. You better keep that filthy mouth of yours shut, considering you're the biggest gossip in the dorm, I said, yanking open the door and walking out. During today's class, my account still received several small deposits. One of them was from a pharmacy near the school. Seeing this, I happily visited all 3 part-time jobs. I explained to my bosses that my illness hadn't fully healed, and the doctor advised me to rest, an excuse I barely believed myself. That evening, I stayed in the library until closing time before heading back to the dorm. Recently, the changes in my life had been for the better. I ran into several classmates in the hallway who remarked that I looked better, more energetic. I modestly acknowledged their comments, smiling as I made my way back to the dorm. The dorm was quiet, the lights off, with everyone working at their desks under their desk lamps. Ivy was lying motionless on her bed. I quickly washed up in the bathroom and then climbed into my own bed, but I had the strange feeling that someone was watching me from above and to the side. I deliberately ignored the feeling and quickly fell asleep. Since the incident at the foot spa, Ivy had been quiet for a while. I, on the other hand, had been keeping my guard up, making sure never to be alone with her outside. Life had been relatively peaceful. But a month later, a dry heave from the bathroom shattered that peace. Upon hearing the sound of gagging, the 5 of us exchanged glances. Grace peeked into the bathroom. Ivy, are you okay? Did you eat something bad? Do you need some anti-nausea medicine? I'm fine. I think it was just the cold from last night. I've been throwing up and running to the bathroom. Oh. As long as you're fine. Let me know if you need anything. Grace added. We exchanged looks again, silently agreeing not to say any more. I wondered if the others were thinking the same thing as I was. I had initially thought Ivy wouldn't try anything else. But to my surprise, the next day, when the dorm was empty, she moved her chair closer to mine. Brianna, you've been resting for so long. Aren't you going to work? She asked. Well, I went to the school clinic, and I'm still not fully recovered. I've already quit the part-time job I had. I answered calmly. You haven't paid your tuition yet, right? Aren't you worried? What if they expel you? Let me know if you need anything. Grace added. We exchanged looks again, silently agreeing not to say any more. I wondered if the others were thinking the same thing as I was. I had initially thought Ivy wouldn't try anything else. But to my surprise, the next day, when the dorm was empty, she moved her chair closer to mine. Brianna, you've been resting for so long. Aren't you going to work? She asked. Well, I went to the school clinic, and I'm still not fully recovered. I've already quit the part-time job I had. I answered calmly. You haven't paid your tuition yet, right? Aren't you worried? What if they expel you? I've already discussed my situation with the counselor and the financial office head. They've allowed me to defer the payment for now. I continued. Once I get the financial aid and the scholarship from last semester, I'll pay the tuition. I'm really curious. Ivy, when did you start caring so much about me? I turned my chair to face her. What's in it for you if I go back to work? Today the dorm is empty. Let's get everything out in the open. Ivy sat up straighter, her hands on my shoulders, and said, I can't bear to see you, such a hard-working student, continue down this path of decline. I didn't let her words slide, noticing the brief flicker of panic in her eyes. And what about your parents? Don't you care about them? If you don't work, how much land do they have to farm to make up this money? Listen to me. You should go back to work now. She winked at me, her voice almost pleading. I shook my head and ignored her. She sat there awkwardly for a moment before extending her hand. Can you lend me your ID? I lost mine and can't go to the doctor without it. No. I won't lend it to you. You don't need an ID to see the campus doctor. If you've lost your ID, you can use your student card at the hospital. When she heard my response, she shot up, as if I had stepped on her tail, pointing at me and yelling, Brianna, why are you so heartless? What's wrong with borrowing your ID? Am I going to lose it? I'm not lending it to you because you might use it for something dishonorable. like taking out a loan in my name. I put my book down and stared at her. At that, she completely panicked. Fine. I won't borrow it. Stop making so many excuses. She grabbed her bag and stormed out. The moment she left, I quickly pulled out all my important documents, put them in a plastic bag, and hid them in the cupboard's inner compartment. What she didn't know was that I had figured out her plan, because while she was sitting next to me quietly just now, I had heard an electronic voice on her phone suggesting she use my ID to apply for a loan. This might be the same method she had used in my previous life to transfer my money to her account. After that, Ivy stopped pestering me. She began borrowing IDs from other students in secret. She managed to borrow from nearly every girl in the class. No one was willing to lend such an important thing to her for no reason. Eventually, heading for Sachel, she started targeting students from other departments. Soon, without a lie, rumors spread across the school about how badly she needed money. She claimed to be sick and needed hospitalization, then said a family member was ill and needed the same. It was either borrowing money or asking to borrow an ID. Eventually, the issue reached the department head's ears. The head called in the counselor for a scolding, saying that he didn't know enough about the students and had failed in his duties. As a result, our entire department had a meeting, where the topic was important documents like IDs must not be lent out, and no one was allowed to borrow money from classmates. After that, everyone started to avoid Ivy, whether intentionally or not. But Ivy remained unfazed, walking around like nothing had happened. But why was she so short on money? Logically speaking, after the foot spa incident, she should have received some money, and her parents would have given her some too. Why was she still so broke? The answer came soon. That night, after Ivy went into the bathroom with a tissue, she didn't come out for a long time. Suddenly, heading for we heard a loud ah, followed by the sound of something heavy falling. We quickly opened the bathroom door to find Ivy unconscious, blood pouring from her lower body. We were terrified and immediately contacted the counselor, who yelled at us on the phone. Do you have any common sense? It's so late. Why haven't you called 120? What are you calling me for? I'm a man. I can't even enter the girls' dorm. Hurry up. Call 120 now. Get her dressed. We hung up the phone and hurriedly lifted Ivy out of the bathroom, dressing her quickly before laying her flat on the ground. Soon, without a low sigh, there was a pool of blood under her. Grace, who was afraid of blood, nearly fainted. We rushed to lay her on the bed. Afterward, everyone quietly waited for 120 to arrive. The atmosphere in the dorm was tense and heavy. Before long, we heard the ambulance approaching. I rushed to open the door, and when I did, I was stunned. The hallway was crowded with people, with students from other dorms peeking in. Once they saw the scene inside, they all gasped. Footsteps quickly approached, and 2 doctors in white coats rushed to the door. Who called 120? What happened? They asked urgently. I made way for the doctor, who was momentarily stunned, paused for a second, then quickly entered the dormitory and began transferring the unconscious Ivy onto the stretcher. We left one person to look after Grace, and the remaining 3 followed the ambulance to the hospital. After a series of tests, it was confirmed that Ivy had an ectopic pregnancy and was 2 months along. Tonight, her pregnancy sac had ruptured, causing heavy bleeding. The school immediately notified Ivy's parents, who sent 20,000 onto her account, demanding that she undergo surgery as soon as possible to save her life. So, the teachers and we spent the entire night watching doctors and nurses rush in and out of the operating room. Finally, having fulfilled my adsi, Ivy was out of danger. The surgeon emerged from the operating room, and we all rushed toward him. Doctor, the girl in there is my student. How is she doing? The counselor asked anxiously. She's out of danger now. We transfused 1200 ml of blood, and she survived. But unfortunately, we couldn't save one of her fallopian tubes. If she hadn't been brought in on time, she wouldn't have made it. The doctor took off his mask and said seriously, from now on, someone must stay by her side 24 hours a day. Your school needs to make arrangements to cooperate with us. With that, The doctor quickly left. The next couple of days will depend on you. You're in the same dorm, so it'll be easier to take care of her. After this, we'll give each of you 5 extra points. The counselor then turned to explain to the other 2 teachers, and left the hospital to return to school. I felt it was important to tell the teachers what had happened before, or else it might come back to haunt me. So, I immediately caught up with the counselor and explained how Ivy had tricked me into going to the foot massage parlor, and how she and Lilith had knocked me out. I also described how I had escaped but made sure to omit the part where I had sent Ivy to a customer's bed. I also truthfully told them that Ivy didn't have a boyfriend, but she had returned late that day. The counselor and the 2 teachers were shocked and asked me to return to school with them to explain everything to the school leaders. They felt Ivy's parents would come to the school to demand an explanation, and if that happened, they would need to report the matter to the police. As expected, after I explained the situation to the principal and the director of the academic affairs office, the school leaders decided to call the police. While Ivy was still unconscious, the entire foot massage parlor was raided. In our dorm, only Grace, who was afraid of blood, wasn't on the schedule, and the remaining 4 of us worked in shifts to take care of Ivy for 2 days. Finally, having fulfilled my obsession, Ivy's parents arrived. However, when they saw us, their faces were full of disdain. Seeing this, the 4 of us didn't stay long and promptly left to report back to the counselor at school. Once we had fully rested, the 5 of us slept for 2 whole days in the dormitory. 2 weeks quickly passed by. Because of Ivy, our dorm had become the topic of gossip among other students. Many curious classmates came to ask about Ivy's situation. The school had signed confidentiality agreements with everyone in the dorm, so we didn't say a word. During Ivy's coma, my bank account received one large deposit, her 20,000 yuan hospital fee, along with the other money Ivy had spent before. My account now had over 43,580 yuan. To me, head out a low sigh. This was ill-gotten money. I decided not to touch it for now. If anything changed later, I would hand it over. Soon, let out a low sigh. Ivy was discharged and, with her parents, caused a scene at the school. They demanded 200,000 yuan in compensation for her losses and my expulsion. Because Ivy feared being beaten by her parents, she blamed everything on me. That afternoon, after class, I was walking with my dorm mates to the cafeteria, chatting and laughing. Suddenly, a large hand grabbed my clothes, yanking me off balance. I turned around and came face to face with Ivy's vengeful glare. It's her. It's her who tricked me into the foot massage parlor. If not for that, none of this would have happened. Ivy pointed at me. Upon hearing this, the classmates around us immediately scattered, forming a circle to watch the drama unfold. Ivy's father grabbed me and refused to let go. You little bitch. How could you be so evil? Nearly killing my Ivy. I didn't. How did I harm her? She's the one who harmed me, I explained loudly. Flap. Ivy's mother gave me a harsh slap across the face, hard enough for my ears to ring. How dare you argue? If we hadn't come, we wouldn't have known that Ivy has been bullied by you in the dorm all this time. And you actually tricked her into working at the foot massage parlor. Are you the head of the place? You know it so well. What a disgrace. Doing such things. At her words, my anger flared. You better clean your mouth. Who's really the head of the place? Your precious daughter is the one who tricked me into that foot massage parlor. She tried to sell me. But luckily, fate helped me. And I escaped. And now you're coming to blame me. Ivy's parents hesitated when they heard my words and turned to look at Ivy. Mom and Dad, don't listen to her. She's the one who did this to me. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be like this. You little bitch. Let me tell you this, today. Either you pay us 200,000 yuan, or we'll send you to the police and have you locked up. Let's see how you continue your education. Ivy's mother spat at me after threatening. Come on. Let's go to the police. Let's see if the police arrest me or your Ivy. Hearing my words, Ivy's parents realized that there might be some lies in Ivy's story. So they stopped pushing for the police and insisted that I pay the money. A crowd of students had gathered around us, watching the scene unfold. Knowing I was temporarily safe, I pulled out my phone to call the counselor. Before I could dial, Ivy snatched my phone from my hand and smugly said, "Hurry up and pay. If you don't, we'll post on the internet about how you tricked me into the foot massage parlor and let everyone judge you." Seeing this, I quickly told Chloe, "Call the counselor and let them know. Or call the police." Ivy's father, hearing me heading to the session, rushed over to snatch Chloe's phone. But Chloe was quick, dialing the phone while pushing through the crowd and running toward the teaching building. Ivy's mother, seeing the situation was turning bad, called for Ivy's father to come quickly and tried to drag me away. There was no way I would leave the crowd, so I started throwing my bag at them. The bag was swatted away, but I scratched Ivy's father's face with my nails. Just as they were about to push through the crowd and pull me away, someone shouted from the crowd, "Why are you taking our student? Where do you think you're taking her in broad daylight?" "Yeah, Ivy. If she's broken the law, the police will take her. You have no right to do this in school. Let go of our classmate." With that, everyone instinctively linked arms and formed a tight circle around me. Seeing how everyone was protecting me, my eyes reddened, and tears almost fell. I reminded myself that it wasn't the right time to cry. Suddenly, Chloe's voice rang out from outside the circle, "It's them. They're trying to take Brianna away." The counselor pushed through the crowd, quickly grabbing Ivy's father's hand. "Let go. You don't get to act as the judge in this school." The counselor looked at me with concern, and seeing that I was fine, continued, "So you couldn't get the money from the school, and now you're harassing students? We didn't want to expose you, but you're pushing it. Ivy, do you even know what you've done? How dare you frame a classmate? Fine. Since you won't give up, let the police explain to you what Ivy has done." The counselor stood in front of me, rallying the students. "You all did great today. Keep the circle tight. Wait for the police. I've already called them." Voices of agreement echoed from the crowd. "Yes. We can't let them get away." Before long, the police arrived and took Ivy's family into the police car. Ivy sat in the back, glaring at me through the glass like a demon from hell. I didn't look at her again, and the crowd began to disperse. Back in the dorm, under the pressure from my roommates, I finally told them about the foot spa incident. That was when they realized just how terrifying Ivy really was. Later, news spread around the school that Ivy was expelled for colluding with criminals and harming classmates. She was taken back to her hometown by her mother. The school also issued an official announcement. The police department made a public statement, revealing the crimes committed at the foot spa. Soon after, a local villager told us that Ivy, unable to cope with the aftermath, had committed suicide after returning home with her parents. Suddenly, an electronic voice sounded in my ear. "Hello. Host. I am Transfer System 26. I can help you transfer other people's money into your account, allowing you to earn painlessly. Would you like to bind it? What are the other options? There is also an option to not bind. I choose the third option." "What? Host. You can't choose that. The system is being destroyed." Host. As the voice grew weaker, I knew it would never harm anyone again.